Abominable Ideas in Art number 2. All art is political. This one is going to offend or aggravate a lot of people because the belief that all art is political is presumed to be the radical, revolutionary, progressive, forward-looking perspective that is on the right side of history. It represents the good. Represents a social agenda of change and wanting it to improve everyone's lot, or at least the lot of the downtrodden, the oppressed, and the marginalized. Let's just get a really good example of someone articulating this position, which is the novelist Toni Morrison. As it happens, one of my favorite contemporary novelists. All good art is political. There is none that isn't. And the ones that try hard to not be political are political by saying,
"We love the status quo."
Now, she did say that all good art is political, so if it's not political, if it's not working for some sort of social change or raising awareness or opposing some phenomenon, then it's not good art. But then she also says, there is none that isn't. This is ambivalent because it can mean that there is no good art that is not political, or it can mean that there is no art that isn't political. And then she rounds it out by saying the ones that try hard to not be political are saying that
they love the status quo.
Now everyone, virtually everyone, believes this. And perhaps they don't remember back far enough when all art was something else. Well, I've written 6 articles on abominable ideas in art. If you missed the first one, it was Andy Warhol's quote about making money is art. Here I'll read from my article. Toni Morrison is just one of armies of people who have made this same claim. It's everywhere, especially these days. Whenever anyone says all art, we already know there's an enormous problem. Someone is trying to circumscribe art and lord themselves over art with a single definition. True, Morrison starts off with all good art, but then includes the rest when asserting even art that tries hard to not be political means
we love the status quo.
Elsewhere, she has said, that's what an artist is, a politician. So the child who picks up a brush for the first time is instantly a politician. I see. For other quotes, one can choose from over 37,000 hits on Google for the exact phrase, all art is political. That's how ingrained this idea is. I remember when people used to say, all art is sexual. Or to quote Picasso, sex and art are the same thing. Maybe you don't remember this. Maybe you aren't old enough. But, we seem to go through cycles, and then this or that perspective, like Freudianism, I think that's where the sexual perspective came from, presumes to encapsulate all of art and categorize art and make itself the litmus test. And then all art is judged from this singular perspective, which is just a thought in someone's head. It is a kind of dictatorship over art. It just, places a cookie cutter and just smashes art into these little pieces and pigeonholes them. But let's continue. I thought that was bonkers when I heard it, and a bit pervy. When people say art is political or sexual, they're just wanting to gratify their sexual whims. But it's like people saying it's a dog-eat-dog world. They say it to justify their own behavior or inclinations, proclivities, what have you. I thought it was a bit pervy, but alas, all has changed, and now all art is political. What we really see here is just that all art and everything else can be sexualized or politicized, or seen through whichever narrow lens serves someone's personal interests. Freudianism, Marxism, feminism, religion, pure aesthetics. If you really pressed people who say all art is political, they'd probably admit that all fashion, cuisine, sports, horticulture, and everything else is political. They just see everything through a political lens. Yeah, I mean, it's a belief system. I'm not saying Toni Morrison subscribes to this kind of simplistic, overarching belief system. I think she's a hell of a lot more complex than that. But, in terms to this particular idea, she's sympathetic to it. But I think a lot of younger people do. They subscribe to a belief system, hook, line, sinker, and worm. They have all the answers, and they're going out there with revolutionary zeal and, insisting all art is political. And there's an effect when you believe this. How do you treat art if it's political? But let me continue here. They just see everything through a political lens. It's their problem, not art's. On top of this, it makes art into the rope in a tug-of-war between always opposing forces and advocating for one side or another. Right, you make art and then either you're like, if you're not perceived as fighting against the oppressor, then you are the oppressor, or you are the status quo, you're upholding the status quo. I brought up, like you're a kid, you start making art. Why? You have some interest in just investigating drawing or painting. You're interested in color, you're interested in line and making some sort of representation of the outer world with these minimum tools. It's not because you're trying to make a statement about the economic structure. You can like art or music without it necessarily being in the service of politics.
You can easily argue that all art is political in some way, and I'd agree with you.
All art is political.
There is no such thing as non-political art. If you're making art, there is no such thing.
All art, all good art, is political.
I'm of the school to believe that all art, all culture is political.
When I discuss this statement in class, I will inevitably find myself defending the claim that all art is political.
But I'm here to tell you that I think that all of art is political.
All art is political is the rallying cry of artists who make overtly political art. And it asserts that their art is the most important, that all art must play by their rules, and all art must serve their political agenda. This gets tied in with other overly simplistic notions, such as, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And that's how obviously non-political art gets looped in as political, as automatically part of the problem, or as Morrison put it,
The status quo.
this allows art to become the enemy. This is a real thing where if you believe all art is political, if you have this revolutionary zeal, you look to dismiss and villainize art as politically the enemy. Even if it has nothing to do with politics, you then say it represents the status quo and the oppression, which you love and are necessarily a part of. It has a pernicious element, but that is not the biggest pernicious element for me. What does one do in the case of minimalism, where there's no content at all to politicize? For example, a stack of bricks by Carl Andre. You politicize the act of creating minimalist art itself, but then there's no difference in your criticism between individual works, because you only have one blanket criticism which you attribute to all of minimalism. The idea that all art is political comes bundled with a virus. All art is judged on its political merit in terms of a particular political agenda. Every artist is a cadre and must serve the cause. The revolutionaries are the new critics, political allegiance their criterion, and the artists that don't join ranks are the enemy who must be defeated. I put that a bit strongly, but there is definite truth in that. So all art has to be political, it has to be left-leaning. And the more left-leaning, the better, because art needs to be radical as well, which is another abominable idea. The person who only sees politics when looking at art can't see the art for what it actually offers, and places art in a subordinate role to politics as merely a vehicle or prop for whatever, always progressive, political cause. Art which promotes the proper agenda is exalted, but any art, no matter how good, which takes a different political position, including none at all, is reviled. Here, art has no intrinsic merit of its own. Sorry, zealots, but you don't get to enlist all art into your political revolution. A lot of art is AWOL, a conscientious objector, a celebration of pure beauty about nature, religion, spirituality, exploring the imagination, or even dreaming in an opium trance. All art is political is such a grotesque exaggeration that it might be more accurate to argue the opposite extreme, such as that all the best art succeeds irrespective of whatever political content. And if I had to choose one overstatement, it would definitely be the latter. The artist is an artist and not a politician. And that's the more sensible way of looking at it. It's a stretch to say all art is political and all artists are politicians, rather than they're artists. Their interest is in making art, expressing themselves in a medium, making something that's beautiful or compelling or interesting or arouses their curiosity or is whimsical, whatever. They can do it without being harnessed to a political cause, fighting one way or another. I give an example of a Monet painting of water lilies. You can try to politicize it, but it's really about nature and the beauty of physical paint and color combinations and light. And it's borderline abstract or non-representational. If anything, it's almost, like I said, AWOL, where it's just not involving itself in politics. So if you're not involving yourself in politics, then that's a political action. I get it. But the truth of the statement really is that all art can be politicized. I agree. All art can be seen through a political lens. So it is more progressive, it's more forward-looking to allow art to be more than a grunt in someone else's war. Allow it to flourish and represent other things that the mind can do, other kinds of expression. For me, one of the things art is an encapsulation or distillation of the artist's unique relation to reality, which is shared experientially in a way that other people can understand something without it being explained through words and written language. That doesn't need to be a political thing, and that can be a powerful thing that allows us to communicate with each other and expand our horizons and our sense of belonging and engaging in reality without it being tethered to a particular political cause. One of the things to fight for politically is the freedom of art. How's that? Is that upholding the status quo? Or is it the status quo to say, your art needs to serve my agenda or else? That's the danger. And that has been a historical precedent. So let's liberate art from the draft. Stay tuned for more episodes, and don't forget to pulverize the like button and get yourself a subscription. It's free, and fare thee well.